Maid's daughter helped an old man every day, until a general walked in with 5 military officers. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. This is a tale of kindness, unexpected twists, and the power of unseen heroes. In the heart of a quiet neighborhood, hidden behind high walls and tall gates, there lived an elderly man named Mr. Jonathan, a man of wealth and influence. He had once been a prominent figure in the city, but now, in the twilight of his years, he found himself isolated and alone. His health was deteriorating, and he had little contact with the outside world. The only person who visited him regularly was a young girl named Lily, the daughter of his housekeeper. Every day, without fail, Lily would arrive at his grand estate to help him with tasks he could no longer manage. She would bring him meals, read to him, and offer him a sense of companionship that he had long since lost. Though Lily's family was not wealthy, and she lived in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, she always treated Mr. Jonathan with respect and kindness. She was the light of his otherwise dreary days. But little did she know, her small acts of kindness were about to set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. One afternoon, as Lily arrived to tend to Mr. Jonathan, she noticed something unusual. Several military vehicles had parked outside the estate, and a group of men in military uniforms stood by the entrance. The sight immediately made her uneasy. As she walked through the grand marble halls, she found Mr. Jonathan sitting in his favorite armchair, looking frail but composed. Beside him stood a tall man in full military regalia, accompanied by 5 officers. The man's stern face and commanding presence immediately made Lily feel out of place. "Ah, Lily, you're just in time," Mr. Jonathan said with a weak smile. "These fine gentlemen are here to discuss some important matters." The general, who stood at the forefront of the group, gave a brief nod in her direction, but his eyes remained cold. "I trust you've been taking good care of Mr. Jonathan," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. Lily nodded nervously, unsure of what was happening. She had never seen Mr. Jonathan interact with such high-ranking officials before. The general continued, "We are here to discuss the future of Mr. Jonathan's estate and business ventures. It's a matter of national interest." As Lily stood there, she couldn't help but feel like a mere observer in a conversation that had nothing to do with her. The officers spoke in hushed tones, their words too complex for her to understand. She felt a sudden urge to leave, but something told her that she needed to stay. She had been helping Mr. Jonathan for so long, and she couldn't just walk away now. What would happen to him without her? The general then turned to her, his expression hardening. "I'm sure you're very familiar with Mr. Jonathan's situation, but perhaps it's time you realize your place here," he said, his tone dismissive. Lily stood frozen, her heart racing. Was he insulting her? She had always been nothing but kind to this man, yet here was a man of power telling her that she was inconsequential. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, Mr. Jonathan raised a shaky hand. "That will be enough," he said, his voice surprisingly strong. The room fell silent. Lily was confused. Why had Mr. Jonathan defended her? What was going on? And why had the general and his officers come today of all days? The tension in the room was palpable, and Lily felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. What was about to unfold in this grand house? The tension in the room was thick, the sound of silence hanging heavily in the air. Lily's heart raced as she looked at Mr. Jonathan, who sat in his chair, his eyes still locked on the general. For a moment, it seemed as if the entire world had stopped. The military officers stood still, their gazes fixed on the old man and his housekeeper's daughter. It was almost as though they, too, were waiting for something. The general, once commanding and firm, now seemed to shrink under Mr. Jonathan's gaze. The strength in the elderly man's voice had cut through the room, cutting down the prideful arrogance of the officers who had arrived with such grand expectations. "You may have come to discuss business," Mr. Jonathan began, his voice surprisingly steady for a man so frail. "But you will respect those who serve me. That includes Lily." The general, taken aback by the old man's words, hesitated before speaking. His eyes, once cold and calculating, softened just slightly. "Of course, Mr. Jonathan," he replied, his voice now less authoritative, more deferential. "We all respect you. But the matters we are discussing today," Mr. Jonathan held up a hand, silencing him. "You think you can come here and talk about business when all I have left are memories and the kindness of those who care about me?" His voice cracked slightly, the weight of his words sinking into the room. "Lily is not just my housekeeper's daughter. She is the only one who has shown me genuine kindness in years. And I will not let you disrespect her or anyone else in this house." Lily stood there, stunned. She had always helped Mr. Jonathan because it felt right, because he was kind to her family, but she had never imagined he would defend her in such a way. The general, sensing that his position was slipping, cleared his throat. "Mr. Jonathan, we only wish to ensure that your legacy and assets are properly managed. We believe that—" "You believe," Mr. Jonathan interrupted, "that my estate is some kind of game. You believe you can buy and sell pieces of my life like they're objects." The general remained silent, clearly unsure of how to respond. The other officers stood in awkward stillness, unsure whether to speak or wait for further instruction. Lily felt a surge of emotion rise within her. She had seen the old man grow weaker over time, but never had she seen him so full of conviction, so determined. He had always been polite, but now, he was standing his ground, and for the first time, she truly saw how much he cared about the people who had remained loyal to him. Lily swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Jonathan, is everything okay?" she asked, her worry evident. He gave her a warm smile, though it was tinged with sadness. "It's more than okay. Lily, these men don't understand what true wealth is. But you do. You've given me more than I could ever ask for." She felt a wave of relief wash over her, but also a nagging sense of uncertainty. What did this meeting mean? What would the general and his officers do next? Just then, the general stepped forward again, his expression now more respectful, even humble. "Mr. Jonathan, perhaps we've approached this all wrong. We apologize for any disrespect shown." He turned to Lily, nodding. "And we certainly did not mean to make you feel unimportant." The sincerity in his voice caught Lily off guard. She had never expected this kind of apology from someone in his position. But before she could process his words, Mr. Jonathan spoke once more. "There's no need to apologize, General. You've shown your true colors. But let me make one thing clear. This estate and everything within it will not be controlled by those who see it as a mere business venture. You'll learn that real power comes from respect, loyalty, and genuine human connection." The room fell into silence once again, but this time, it was a different kind of silence, one filled with understanding. The general, recognizing the depth of Mr. Jonathan's words, nodded slowly. "We understand, Mr. Jonathan. We'll handle things differently from here on out." As the meeting came to a close, Lily felt a sense of unease still hanging in the air. She didn't know what the future would hold, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about an old man and his assets. It was about something far more important. It was about loyalty, respect, and the kind of wealth that could never be measured in money. The next morning, Lily arrived at Mr. Jonathan's estate, her heart still heavy with the events of the day before. The tension in the air seemed to have subsided, but the questions were still there. What would happen now? The general and his officers had left, but their presence had shaken her. Lily wasn't sure if they were done with their plans, or if there was more to come. When she entered the grand hall, she was greeted by Mr. Jonathan, who sat in his usual chair, looking out of the window with a distant gaze. Despite his frailty, there was a quiet strength about him now. It was as if the words he had spoken to the officers had awakened something in him that had long been dormant. Lily could see it in the way he carried himself. "Good morning, Lily," Mr. Jonathan said softly, but there was a warmth to his voice that she hadn't heard in a long time. "Good morning, Mr. Jonathan," she replied, walking over to his side. "How are you feeling today?" He smiled, but it was a small, tired smile. "Better. Much better." As Lily helped him with his breakfast, she noticed that his hands seemed steadier than before, his mind clearer. The events of the previous day had clearly made an impact on him. He had stood up to the military officers, to the people who had underestimated him, and now he seemed to have regained a sense of control over his life. But Lily couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would the general return? Would there be more challenges ahead? "Lily," Mr. Jonathan said suddenly, breaking her thoughts. I've been thinking. She turned to face him, her curiosity piqued. About what? About everything that happened yesterday, he said, his voice growing more serious. And about you. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Me, sir? He nodded. You've shown me more loyalty and compassion than anyone else in years. More than I can ever repay. I've realized that it's time for me to make some changes. Lily felt a surge of hope, but also a sense of fear. What kind of changes, Mr. Jonathan? I've spent too long focusing on wealth, on status, on things that don't really matter. It's time to focus on what does matter, on the people who truly care about me. People like you. He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. I want you to know that no matter what happens, you will always have a place here. This estate, this home, it will be yours as much as mine. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Was he serious? The weight of his words settled on her like a heavy blanket. She had never imagined that Mr. Jonathan would say something like this. She had always helped him because it felt right, because she cared about him. But this was different. This was a promise. Mr. Jonathan, she stopped herself, not knowing how to respond. It was overwhelming. I mean it, Lily, he said gently. You've given me more than I could ever ask for. Now, I want to make sure you have everything you deserve. You've earned it. As she looked at Mr. Jonathan, she realized that something had shifted. She was no longer just the housekeeper's daughter in his eyes. She was someone important, someone who mattered. And for the first time in a long while, Lily felt like she truly belonged. But the future still loomed ahead, uncertain. She wasn't sure what the general and his officers would do next, or what challenges they might face. But one thing was clear. No matter what happened, she would stand by Mr. Jonathan. He had stood up for her, and now she would do the same. Together, they would face whatever came next. The days that followed were filled with a quiet tension. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. Mr. Jonathan had made a promise, but she didn't know if he could follow through on it. The military officers had left, but she couldn't ignore the possibility that they might return, determined to take control of what they thought was rightfully theirs. She spent her days caring for Mr. Jonathan, making sure he was comfortable and well-fed, but her mind was constantly racing. What would happen if the general returned? What if they tried to take everything from him? And what if they came after her as well? One evening, as Lily sat with Mr. Jonathan in the drawing room, a knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She stood up quickly, her heart skipping a beat. She wasn't expecting anyone, and the sudden appearance of a visitor only added to the unease she felt. Mr. Jonathan looked at her with a knowing gaze. It's them, isn't it? He asked, his voice low. Lily hesitated for a moment before nodding. I think it's the general and his officers. Mr. Jonathan didn't seem surprised. In fact, he looked almost relieved. Let them in, he said. It's time to face whatever they've brought. Lily opened the door to find the same group of military officers standing outside, their expressions unreadable. The general stood at the forefront, his usual stern demeanor softened, as if he had come to deliver news, not make demands. Mr. Jonathan, the general began, I hope we can talk. Mr. Jonathan motioned for them to enter, and the officers filed into the room. The tension between them was palpable, but there was also an air of respect, something Lily hadn't sensed before. As they took their seats, the general spoke again. I came here today not as a man of power, but as someone who understands the value of loyalty. He paused, looking at Lily. And I've come to realize that we may have made a grave mistake. Lily's heart pounded in her chest. Was this an apology? Was this the moment they would finally back down? She looked at Mr. Jonathan, who was calm, his eyes unwavering. The general continued. You see, we underestimated you, Mr. Jonathan. We underestimated Lily. And we mistook kindness for weakness. But I've come to understand that you both possess something far more valuable than wealth or power. You have something that cannot be bought. The general's words were unexpected, and Lily wasn't sure how to respond. Mr. Jonathan smiled gently, a look of satisfaction in his eyes. You've finally learned, then, he said softly. The general nodded. We have, and we want to make things right. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. The officers weren't here to take anything from them. Instead, they were here to acknowledge what Mr. Jonathan had known all along, the true value of loyalty and human connection. The general turned to Lily. We owe you an apology, young lady. You've shown us what it means to be truly powerful. and we will make sure that you are taken care of, no matter what." Lily was speechless. She had never expected anything like this. The general, who had once looked at her with disdain, was now speaking to her with genuine respect. "I'll make sure the estate is yours, as promised," Mr. Jonathan said, his voice firm. "No one will take it from you. Not now, not ever." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him. She had always helped him because it felt right, because he had been kind to her family, but now, she realized that she wasn't just helping him. She was a part of something much bigger. She was part of his legacy, part of the very foundation of everything he had built. As the meeting concluded, Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. The general and his officers left, not as conquerors, but as men who had learned the true meaning of respect. And as they walked away, Lily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she and Mr. Jonathan would face them together, stronger than ever. Weeks passed, and the days at Mr. Jonathan's estate seemed to take on a new rhythm. The once quiet and lonely mansion was now filled with a sense of purpose. Lily's role had changed, no longer just the caretaker of Mr. Jonathan's home, but a vital part of the family legacy. The general and his officers had kept their word, ensuring that Lily and Mr. Jonathan were never again threatened by outside forces. The estate was secure, and Mr. Jonathan's health, though still fragile, had improved. But while things seemed to settle, Lily could not shake the feeling that this newfound peace might be short-lived. One evening, as she sat beside Mr. Jonathan in the living room, she heard a knock on the door. This time, it wasn't the military officers, but someone she had not expected, a lawyer. Lily's heart raced as the man introduced himself, his face serious. "Good evening. I'm Thomas Harrington, Mr. Jonathan's legal representative. I've come to discuss some important matters regarding the future of the estate." Mr. Jonathan looked at Lily, his eyes full of concern. "Lily, you should be here for this. There's something you need to know." She nodded, trying to remain calm as the lawyer explained the situation. "Mr. Jonathan has made some changes to his will, and I'm here to ensure that everything is handled properly. There are also some financial matters that need to be addressed." Lily listened intently, her mind spinning. What could this mean? She had thought that everything was settled, but now there was talk of a will and financial matters. What had Mr. Jonathan planned? The lawyer continued. "Mr. Jonathan has decided that the estate will be passed down to you, Lily. You will be the sole heir to this property and all that comes with it." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She had always helped Mr. Jonathan out of kindness, never expecting anything in return. But now, she was being told that the estate, the very thing that had once felt so distant and out of her reach, would be hers. "You have proven your loyalty, your integrity, and your ability to care for Mr. Jonathan in ways no one else could," the lawyer said. "This decision was made with the utmost care and respect for everything you've done." Lily could hardly believe what she was hearing. She glanced at Mr. Jonathan, who smiled gently. "I trust you, Lily," he said quietly. "You've shown me more than I could ever have imagined. This estate, this home, it's yours now. Take care of it, as you've always taken care of me." The weight of his words hit Lily like a tidal wave. She had always thought of herself as just a caretaker, a helper, someone who was never meant to have a life of her own. But now, everything was different. The future was in her hands. She felt a mixture of awe and fear. Could she live up to this responsibility? Could she truly care for this estate and continue Mr. Jonathan's legacy? As the lawyer left, Mr. Jonathan turned to her. "This is your time, Lily. You've earned it. Don't let anyone take that away from you." Lily nodded, though her mind was racing. She had been given a great gift, but with that gift came an immense responsibility. As she looked out over the sprawling grounds of the estate, she realized that this was more than just a house. It was a symbol of everything she had worked for, everything she had sacrificed. It was her future, and now, she had to figure out what kind of future she wanted. The weight of the decision was heavy, but for the first time, Lily felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She would honor Mr. Jonathan's trust and live up to the legacy he had left for her. She would build a future for herself, one that was rooted in the values of loyalty, respect, and compassion that had brought her this far. She was no longer just the housekeeper's daughter. She was the new matriarch of the estate, and she would make sure it thrived. The days that followed were filled with a whirlwind of decisions. Lily sat at the grand oak desk in Mr. Jonathan's study, papers scattered in front of her, her mind overwhelmed by the magnitude of the responsibilities now resting on her shoulders. The estate was vast, and the decisions she needed to make were endless. From managing the grounds to overseeing the staff, every choice felt crucial, and the weight of it all was beginning to take its toll. But, despite the pressure, Lily knew she couldn't back down. She had promised Mr. Jonathan that she would honor his trust, and she was determined to do just that. She spent her mornings walking through the estate, meeting with the staff, making sure everything was running smoothly. Her afternoons were filled with meetings with financial advisors and lawyers, discussing the estate's future and how to manage its vast resources. As the weeks went by, Lily began to feel more confident in her decisions. She had learned from Mr. Jonathan, who had always led with integrity and a deep sense of responsibility. She knew she couldn't change the past, but she could shape the future. One afternoon, as Lily was walking through the garden, she noticed a familiar figure standing by the fountain. It was the general. Her heart skipped a beat. Had he come to challenge her again? To take what was hers? She walked toward him cautiously, trying to read his expression. When he saw her, he stepped forward, his usual stern demeanor replaced with something softer. "Lily," he said, his voice calm. "I came to apologize." Lily stopped in her tracks, surprised. She had not expected this. "Apologize? For what?" she asked, her voice guarded. The general took a deep breath. "For underestimating you. For thinking that because of your status, you couldn't handle what was at stake here. I've seen the way you've managed things, and I have to admit, you've done far better than I ever expected." Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. She had never imagined the general, a man of such power, would admit he was wrong. "I don't need your approval," she said, her voice steady. "I just want what's best for this estate, for Mr. Jonathan's legacy." The general nodded, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "And that's why I'm here. I want to help you." Lily frowned. "Help me? After everything that's happened?" The general stepped closer, his expression earnest. "I understand if you're hesitant, but I've seen your potential, and I believe together, we can make this estate even more successful than it was under Mr. Jonathan. I can offer you resources, connections, and expertise, but only if you want it." Lily considered his words carefully. She had built this estate with nothing but her own determination and the lessons Mr. Jonathan had taught her. Did she really need help? And from someone like him? But then, she remembered the countless challenges she had faced in the past few weeks, the decisions that had kept her awake at night. Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. "I don't need a partner," she said slowly, "but I could use an ally." The general's smile grew wider. "Then I'm here for you. I'll help you however I can, no strings attached. You have my word." Lily looked out at the sprawling gardens, her mind racing with possibilities. She had come so far, and yet, she knew that the path ahead was still uncertain. But with the general's support, maybe things didn't have to be as difficult as she had feared. The estate, her future, it was all in her hands. And now, for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Weeks turned into months, and with each passing day, Lily grew more confident in her role as the estate's caretaker. The once intimidating responsibilities of managing the property, overseeing the staff, and maintaining the legacy of Mr. Jonathan became second nature to her. She had built strong relationships with the team, and together, they ensured the estate was running smoothly. The general's presence in her life, though unexpected, had proven invaluable. His advice, connections, and willingness to offer help made a huge difference in managing the estate's vast resources. But as time went on, Lily felt a growing sense of unease. She knew the general meant well, but his offer of help had come with strings attached, even if he insisted otherwise. She began to question his true intentions. Was he simply being kind, or was there more at play here? Was he waiting for the right moment to take advantage of her position? One evening, as she sat alone in the library, going over the estate's financial reports, a knock on the door startled her. She opened it to find the general standing in the doorway, his expression serious. "Lily, may I speak with you?" he asked. Lily hesitated for a moment before nodding and motioning for him to enter. "Of course. What's on your mind?" The general stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I need to be upfront with you about something," he began, his tone more serious than she had ever heard. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize now that my involvement in the estate has gone further than I originally intended." Lily's heart began to race. Was he finally going to ask for control of the estate? I've always respected you, Lily, he continued. And I've watched you grow into someone who can run this place with or without my help. But I need to be honest with you. There are some who would love to see you fail, people who want this estate for themselves, and they won't stop until they get it. Lily's eyes narrowed. Who are you talking about? The general sighed, running a hand through his hair. There are people in the city, powerful individuals, who believe that someone of your background isn't fit to manage this estate. They don't see you as worthy of this legacy. They think I've made a mistake in supporting you. Lily stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You think I can't handle it? She asked, her voice steady but with an edge of anger. No, that's not what I mean, the general said quickly. I believe in you, Lily. But you need to be prepared. These people won't back down. And neither will I. He looked at her with a mixture of sincerity and concern. I want to help you protect this estate, protect what's yours. But you have to be willing to fight for it. Lily stood there, her mind racing. She had already fought so much to get to this point, and now, she was being told that the battle wasn't over. The general had always been an ally, but now, he was asking her to stand up for herself in ways she had never imagined. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The general hesitated before speaking again. I want you to be ready. For anything. These people won't give up easily, and neither should you. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Lily took a deep breath. This wasn't just about managing the estate anymore. It was about standing up for herself, for everything she had worked so hard to build. And for the first time, she realized that she wasn't alone in this fight. She had allies, and she wasn't going to let anyone take away what she had earned. I won't back down, Lily said firmly, her eyes meeting the general's. I'll fight for this estate, for Mr. Jonathan's legacy, and for everything that's mine. The general nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. That's the spirit. We'll face this together, Lily. Whatever comes next, we'll face it head on. As the general left the room, Lily felt a surge of determination wash over her. She wasn't just protecting an estate anymore. She was protecting her future. And no one, not even the most powerful men in the city, could take that away from her. The days grew longer, and the weight of responsibility continued to press heavily on Lily. She had promised herself she would not back down, and every decision she made brought her one step closer to solidifying her future. However, the challenges she faced were far from over. As much as she had gained control over the estate, there were still powerful individuals out there who sought to undermine her. One afternoon, while walking through the estate's garden, Lily overheard a conversation between two of the estate's senior managers. Their voices were low, but the words they spoke were clear enough. I hear she's already making changes, one of them whispered. What if she's not up for it? Can someone like her really handle this place? Lily's heart sank as she continued listening. She had suspected that not everyone was on her side, but hearing it so plainly shook her. They didn't believe in her. They didn't think she was capable. For a moment, she stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. But then she realized something. These whispers were only a reflection of their own doubts. It wasn't about her. It was about them. The power they thought they had, the control they assumed would remain. But that control was slipping away, and they were scared. She wasn't just managing an estate anymore. She was reshaping its future. The next day, Lily decided it was time to confront the people who had been undermining her. She called a meeting with the senior managers, the ones who had questioned her ability. When they arrived, she stood tall, her posture firm, as they filed into the large conference room. She looked at each one of them, her gaze steady, unwavering. I know there are doubts about my ability to run this estate, she began, her voice calm but filled with authority. But I want to make one thing clear. This estate is not a game. It's not a business deal to be passed around like property. It's a legacy, and it's mine to protect. The room fell silent. The managers exchanged nervous glances, clearly unprepared for the strength Lily displayed. I've earned this, and I'm not going anywhere, she continued. If you want to stay and be a part of this future, then I expect your full commitment. If not, then you are free to leave. There was a tense moment as everyone in the room absorbed her words. Lily stood there, watching them, waiting for their response. Finally, one of the managers, a man who had been particularly vocal in his skepticism, stood up. I've seen your work, Lily. I may have doubted you before, but you've proven yourself. You're right. This estate is about more than money. It's about legacy. I'll support you. One by one, the others followed suit, offering their apologies and pledging their loyalty. Lily felt a rush of relief, but also a sense of accomplishment. She had not only gained their respect, but had also proven that she could lead, even in the face of doubt. As the meeting concluded and the managers left, Lily stood alone in the room for a moment. She had done it. She had faced her fears and stood up for herself, for her future. But she knew this was just the beginning. The battle for control, for respect, was far from over. There would always be those who doubted her, those who sought to take what she had worked so hard to build. But Lily was no longer the unsure girl who had arrived at the estate. She was the woman in charge, and she would fight for what was hers. With each passing day, she grew stronger, more confident, and more determined. She had already proven that she could handle whatever came her way. And now, she was ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that nothing and no one could stand in her way. As the months passed, Lily's leadership over the estate became undeniable. She had earned the respect of the staff, and her decisions were now shaping the future of the property. The once intimidating responsibility she had feared had become a part of her, something she knew she could handle. The legacy of Mr. Jonathan was not just about the physical estate. It was about the values he had passed on to her: loyalty, respect, and the belief that wealth was nothing compared to integrity. Despite the challenges, Lily had proven herself time and time again, and with each victory, she felt herself growing more confident in her role. But as life at the estate began to settle into a routine, Lily knew that her journey wasn't over. The world around her was changing, and new challenges were always on the horizon. One afternoon, while Lily was walking through the garden, she received an unexpected letter. It was from the city's most influential real estate mogul, a man whose empire had once seemed untouchable. The letter was an offer, a partnership. The mogul wanted to merge his vast portfolio with the estate, a move that could potentially double the value of what Lily had worked so hard to protect. At first, Lily was intrigued. It was an opportunity to grow, to expand the estate into something even greater. But as she read through the details, a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. The mogul's offer came with a price: control. If Lily accepted, she would no longer have the final say in the estate's future. She would be forced to share authority with someone who had no understanding of the values she had built. The offer was tempting, but Lily knew that she couldn't compromise what she had worked so hard to create. She had learned from Mr. Jonathan that true wealth came not from how much one owned, but from what one stood for. That afternoon, Lily sat down with the general, who had become a trusted ally. She laid the letter on the table in front of him, her mind already made up. "What do you think?" she asked, looking up at him. The general read through the letter, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, he looked up at her. "It's a powerful offer," he said slowly. "But it's not the right one for you, Lily. This estate isn't just about land and buildings. It's about what it represents. If you give up control now, it will never be yours again." His words struck a chord deep within her. Lily had come so far, had fought so hard for her place here. She couldn't let it all slip away for the promise of more wealth or more influence. She knew what she had to do. The next day, Lily met with the real estate mogul and respectfully declined his offer. She told him that she had built the estate with integrity, and she wasn't willing to compromise those values for anything. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. As she walked out of the meeting, Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. She had made the choice that reflected who she truly was, and it felt freeing. The estate, Mr. Jonathan's legacy, would remain in her hands, untouched by outside forces. With each passing day, she grew stronger in her role. She was no longer just a caretaker. She was the leader of her own destiny. The challenges would continue to come, but Lily was ready for them. She had proven that she could stand tall, even in the face of adversity, and she would continue to honor the legacy of those who had trusted her. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Lily felt that she had the power to shape it. And with that, she knew her journey was just beginning.